Self-isolation while I wait for a Coffee Boy test to come back. Can I load a save game from December 2019, please? Now, as I discussed with you fine folk the other day before certain symptoms of a certain virus manifested themselves, I talked about the whole sport versus entertainment thing because Formula 1 fans seem locked into the entertainment versus sport aspect. Because when there's a runaway winner in a Formula 1 race, Twitter, Facebook and this Talking Head YouTube channel are flooded with comments about how it's boring, dull, tedious, MotoGP is better, the Lewis Hamilton show, and so on. But it's not just me that is always going to talk about it, because if you follow The Kickoff, which is a live stream football watch-along channel on Twitch fronted by YouTuber True Geordie, they discussed it at length a few days ago. So forgive me if I make a lot of comparisons to football in this video, because both sports are in the same sort of boat right now. We live in an age where virtually all top-level live sport is behind some sort of paywall, whether it's Formula 1, the Premier League, and even cricket now has sold its soul to the Murdoch media machine. Fans quite naturally want to get their money's worth. Football fans are shelling out about £90 a month, which is about, what, $120 to get access to football across Sky and BT Sport. And one Twitter account worked out that it's actually cheaper to fly to Australia, stay at a hostel on Bondi Beach all year, and watch every Premier League game live on an Australian sports network. 14-day quarantine on arrival sold separately. $6,200 Australian dollars to watch the Premier League in the UK, $140 to watch it in Australia. So like I said, for that money, you want your money's worth. People want their expenses justified. If they see 0-0 draws of totally unexciting football or a total parade of Formula 1 racing, they're going to feel conned. Especially here, where you're shelling out so much money to watch it. You'd be thinking, why am I spending all this money when I can just watch the highlights on Match of the Day on BBC One later tonight, or watch the Formula 1 highlights on Channel 4, which is free to air, and, well, I'm not missing anything, am I? Which is personally how I'm watching it these days. Listen to it on the radio, then watch it on the TV later. I've been listening to sport on the radio since I was a kid. It's not weird to me. Speaking of when I were a lad, Formula 1 was shown on the BBC before moving to ITV in 1997. It then moved back to the BBC for 2009 and then, like everything else, got swallowed up by Sky Sports in 2012. And then the live exclusivity deal kicked in, what, 2016, 2017, something like that. And when the shift to pay TV started, audience numbers dropped. Pre-Hamilton dominance, I have to add. And now, like mentioned at the top of this video, we see comment sections flooded with people wanting every race to be balls to the wall excitement. Constant overtaking, pure action, all that stuff. So the FIA introduced DRS to improve the on-track action, but it quickly got labelled as fake racing. Take the DRS away, as we saw at Abu Dhabi in 2019, then people moan at the lack of overtaking. What do you people want? But this time I'm not just having a crack at the fans and their inability to grasp that what they want has never existed. The FIA is also seeing this, and has created a rule set that involves cars being too reliant on aerodynamic grip. Why? Lap times. You don't need to have watched the sport for 25 years to realise that Formula 1 is the fastest sport on four wheels. Top fuel drags is accepted, of course. Now, average speeds at the Indy 500 are higher, but on circuits nothing beats Formula 1 lap times. Put simply, F1 is the FIA's baby. It must be faster than everything else. No ifs, no ands, no buts. And we saw Group C die partly for this reason. Pinnacle of speed around a 3-mile racetrack isn't the same as the pinnacle of racing. Hot lapping isn't racing! Yet under the rules of 2 car generations ago, which is 2009 to 2013, lap times were slower than they'd been previously, in the period sort of 2006 to 2008. But nobody gave a toss. The cars then became more and more aerodynamically dependent because they tried to claw back what the FIA had taken away. More dirty air was chucked out the back, the cars couldn't follow, and then fans complained that the racing wasn't good enough. However, Mercedes, Liverpool, the All Blacks, even the Blue Jays, they're not interested in playing attractive football. They're not interested in going wheel to wheel with a Red Bull for 60 laps. They're not interested in starting a fight with an umpire in the bottom of the 5th inning. They're interested in one thing: victory. But I've got a however to throw on top of the however here. Barcelona under Pep Guardiola was doing this play style called tiki-taka. Basically, one-touch football. Bang, 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 bang. All over the pitch, possession-based football. And it was fun to watch. But the thing is, Guardiola and Barcelona weren't playing tiki-taka football to entertain 90,000 fans at the Nou Camp. They did it because it worked. They dominated football at the turn of the last decade using a playstyle that just happened to be entertaining. Just watch how they destroyed Manchester United in 2011 at Wembley in the Champions League final. Vettel, Hamilton, Raikkonen, Leclerc and so on won't say they're entertainers. They're sportsmen. And the FIA changing the regulations seemingly on a weekly basis doesn't help the sport or reduce the advantage that Mercedes has. It took them 3 seasons to bring in the 2017 regulations. Had they left the regulations as they were in 2014, Williams, Ferrari and Red Bull could have potentially caught up. By changing the regulations so soon and so drastically, it wasn't just all the other teams that got a reset button hit, it was Mercedes as well. And contrary to popular belief, the FIA has done stuff to try and stop Mercedes. The problem is, Mercedes just has such a big budget they can spend their way around a problem. Banning their trick suspension, for instance, which caused them to overheat their rear tyres. They found a fix within weeks. Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull will spend their way around a problem with varying degrees of success, as it were. But teams like Alfa, Williams and Haas will stay where they are with no chance of battling with those big budgets, and then they have to rely on drivers with a load of bank behind them to stay alive. And it seems that every announcement of a new set of regulations from the FIA or something in a press release from FOM or Liberty Media, whatever they're called this week, always contains the same phrase: improving the show. We're changing the front wing specifications to improve the show. We're going back to ground effect to improve the show. We're going to put spike strips on the exits of some corners to stop people taking the piss with track limits to improve the show. And we're going to sack David Croft and replace him with Jack Nicholls. That would actually genuinely improve the show. And I know I mentioned this series a lot, but, you know, it's my other favourite form of motorsport. The BTCC manages to get the sport to entertainment ratio correct. Every rule change that Alan Gow and the people at TOCA do, they question how it will affect the sport as well as the show. They look at both things equally. With Formula 1, it just seems to be about the show. And when I talked about the new 2021 regulations in the BTCC, people said, but the ballast is a gimmick, like DRS is. Reverse grids is a gimmick. How can you say that the BTCC has no gimmicks? And actually, yes, I can forgive you for thinking that. But despite that, the cream in the BTCC still rises up to the top. The best drivers and the best cars will start, say, 8th in the reverse grid draw with maximum ballast and still get on the podium. The flip side is, they'll have worked to get there instead of just blasting past inferior cars. The issue is, Formula 1 cars are so specific and so precisionally made, you can't ballast them in the same way you can ballast a GT or a touring car. Next time on Pressing Issues, why BOP in Formula 1 will never work. Not every race will be one for the highlight vaults, and I've already talked at length as to how the racing in the 80s wasn't as close and intense as those highlights make it seem. But instead, the powers that be at Formula 1 are trying to balance the whole thing towards entertainment as opposed to sport. And if they flip it round, then gimmicks, constant rule changes, overspending, and all that stuff will probably go away. Spending huge amounts of money to get out of your trick suspension being banned and so on won't happen anymore, and then you might actually get things closer together. That's quite literally what the spending cap's for, isn't it? By focusing too much on entertainment as opposed to sport, you end up with the WWE. And by that, you might as well just script the whole thing with Silverstone-style punctures on the final lap. Sport should breed entertainment. Entertainment should not come at the expense of sport. And I think since about 1993, pay TV sports channels have bred a generation of the show, as opposed to let's see the best beat the best. FIFA might as well make the goals a couple of feet wider and taller so people can launch it in from 40 yards all the time. Or maybe it's because I'm a Warsaw supporter, I'm not used to seeing sport be entertaining. So now over to you. Is Formula One's quest for the show messing with everything else? Should the whole sport be reset to make sure that the sport aspect doesn't disappear? Does pay TV make people desire that entertainment aspect more? Let me know in the comments and get that discussion happening. So if you've heard some interesting comments, click the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't, and get the bell on for future videos. Massive thanks as always go out to the patronage of this channel via Patreon. If you should join them or just join in the Discord stuff and Twitter bants, then I'll leave all the relevant links in the description box for you. So until then, until next time, until... you know how this works by now. I'm running a bit of a fever. Anyway, I've been AdmiralLaWind. Have a great day wherever you live in the world, and I'll see you all soon for another video. So until then, goodbye.